Millionaire sees a black street girl wearing his missing son's necklace. What he discovers changes everything. The traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge had never seemed to move so slowly. Alexander Sterling, a 45-year-old white tech mogul, drummed his fingers on the steering wheel of his sleek electric car, watching the typical New York City afternoon when something made his blood run cold. A black girl, no older than 12, was weaving between the cars, wiping windshields for a few dollars. But that wasn't what made Alexander's eyes widen. It was the silver compass pendant encrusted with sapphires hanging around the girl's thin neck. The same necklace he had had specially made for his son Leo last Christmas. The same Leo who had disappeared 4 days ago without a trace. Alexander flung open his car door before he even thought about it. "Hey kid, wait!" The girl, Anna, though Alexander didn't know that yet, jumped and started running. It wasn't paranoia. It was street experience. A rich man yelling at her never meant anything good.
"Please, I just want to talk about that necklace."
Alexander ran after her, ignoring the angry honking of cars stuck in traffic.
"Where did you get this?"
Anna stopped on the sidewalk, panting. Her brown eyes sized Alexander up with the precocious wisdom of someone who had learned to survive on her own. "I didn't steal anything, sir. I swear I didn't." "I know you didn't steal it," Alexander said, trying to control his trembling voice. "That necklace, it belonged to my son. He's missing." Anna hesitated. There was something in this man's voice that wasn't anger or accusation. It was pure desperation. "I found a boy," she whispered finally. "He was hurt, hiding in a condemned warehouse in Queens. He gave me this and asked me to find his father." Alexander's world spun. Where is he?" "I took care of him for 3 days. He's alive, but—" Anna bit her lip. "He told me things about who did this to him. And sir, I don't think this was a normal kidnapping." Alexander felt something cold run up his spine. For 4 days, he had begged the police, hired private investigators, and offered a reward. But it was a street kid, someone society didn't even see, who had found his son. "Take me to him now." Alexander pulled out his car keys. "Okay, but there's something you need to know first," Anna said quietly, looking around as if afraid of being overheard. "Before I found Leo, I saw who left him there. And if I'm right about who it was—" She paused. "You're not going to like this." Alexander stopped. "What do you mean?" Anna looked him straight in the eye. "It was someone he knew, someone you trusted. And from the way he sounded on the phone while I was listening in, this was all planned to ruin you, too. If your heart is racing with this story of betrayal and mystery, subscribe to the channel, because what Anna discovered about the kidnapper's true identity will shock you as much as it shocked Alexander. And the revenge they planned together is more satisfying than any justice you've ever seen." Anna looked around once more before motioning for Alexander to head toward the subway. "He's in Queens, but we can't take your car. It's too flashy. And sir," she hesitated, "when we get there, don't yell or anything. He's really scared." During the 40-minute subway ride, Anna recounted details that made Alexander's stomach churn. Leo had been hiding in the basement of an abandoned warehouse for 3 days, dehydrated with marks on his wrists as if he had been tied up. Even more disturbing, he had whispered the name Uncle Robert several times, always followed by tears. Robert Mitchell, Alexander's best friend for 20 years, Leo's godfather, a minority partner in the company, a white man who had comforted the family when Leo's mother died the previous year. The same Robert who had insisted that Alexander hire more private security in recent weeks, claiming to have bad feelings about the family's safety. "Here," Anna whispered, stopping in front of a red brick building covered in graffiti. "He's in the basement. I got him some water and snacks, but he's barely eating." Alexander followed Anna down the dark stairs. his heart beating so hard he was sure it echoed through the damp hallway. And then he saw him. Leo, his 9-year-old boy, huddled in a corner on a dirty mattress, clutching a toy robot Alexander had never seen before. "Dad?" His voice was a hoarse whisper. When he lifted his face, Alexander saw dark circles under his eyes and a look that no child should have. The look of someone who had seen things that would haunt him forever. Alexander rushed to him, wrapping his arms around him carefully, as if he were made of glass. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe now." But as he held his son, his mind was racing. How did Robert know where to look? Why had he suggested hiring security just now? And more importantly, what kind of monster does this to a child? "Dad," Leo whispered in his ear. "Uncle Robert said it was a game and that you knew about it, but then he got angry on the phone, yelling at someone about money and contracts. He said," he trembled, "that if I told anyone, something bad would happen to you too." Anna watched the scene with her arms crossed. "Sir, there's more. He told me about your company. This, Uncle Robert." He was talking on the phone about transferring money, about signing some papers while you were distracted looking for Leo. Alexander felt the blood drain from his body. Over the past 3 days, while he had been desperately searching for his son, Robert had temporarily taken over some of his responsibilities at the company. He had access to the accounts, the contracts, the clients, and Alexander had given him permission to do everything, trusting his best friend blindly. "He dropped his cell phone once," Anna continued. "I heard him talking to someone. When he finds out what happened to the company, his son's pain will seem like nothing." And then he laughed, sir. He laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. Alexander closed his eyes, hugging Leo tighter. 20 years of friendship, of trust, of sharing joys and sorrows. Robert had been by his side when his wife died. He had held Leo in his arms at the hospital. He had been the first to offer help when he disappeared. And now Alexander understood why Robert had insisted so strongly that he not involve the police right away. "Let's give it a few more hours," he had said. "Maybe he's just lost. The police could complicate things unnecessarily. A few more hours for him to complete his financial sabotage." Anna crouched down beside them. "Sir, I know this is hard to hear, but there's something you need to know about this man." She looked Alexander straight in the eye. "He's not doing this alone. Yesterday morning, when I brought Leo his food, I saw him talking to 2 other men in suits near here. I recognized one of them from television. He's that socialite who always talks about family and traditional values." Alexander's world began to spin. This wasn't just personal betrayal. It was a conspiracy involving powerful white people. And he had been the perfect target. A man vulnerable from the recent loss of his wife, completely focused on his business, trusting those closest to him blindly. But as he held Leo and looked at Anna, a girl whom society had made invisible, but who had been the only one to truly help his family, something changed inside Alexander. The pain was turning into something more dangerous. Determination. "Anna," he said quietly, "do you want to help bring these men down?" The girl nodded without hesitation. "Then we're going to have to be a lot smarter than they think we are." Because what Robert and his accomplices didn't know was that Alexander hadn't risen to the top of the tech world by being naive. And now, with the truth revealed and an unlikely ally at his side, the revenge that was taking shape would be more devastating than anything they could have imagined. Over the next 24 hours, while Leo recovered in a private hospital under a false name, Alexander did something Robert would never have expected. He stopped searching for his son publicly. He canceled the media alerts, dismissed the private investigators, and told everyone he needed time to process the situation. Robert called 3 times that first day, his voice heavy with fake concern. "Alexander, my friend, you can't give up now. Leo needs you to be strong. It was almost impressive how sincere he sounded, knowing exactly where he was the entire time. But Alexander wasn't giving up. He was planning. And his first move was something no tech millionaire would ever do. He temporarily moved into a modest apartment in Queens, 3 blocks from where Anna lived on the streets. Because if there was going to be a war, he needed real intelligence, not expensive detectives Robert could buy. Anna proved to be a more valuable ally than Alexander could ever have imagined. The kid knew every corner of that neighborhood, every homeless person, every broken camera, and every blind spot in the city's surveillance network. More importantly, she was completely invisible to people like Robert and his white henchmen. "Mr. Alexander," Anna said one morning, returning from one of her reconnaissance missions. "That socialite I saw talking to Uncle Robert. I found out where he stays when he comes to Queens." The girl smiled. "And it's not somewhere he'd want his wife to know about." But the real stroke of luck came when Alexander met Jennifer Cole, a financial crimes attorney who worked pro bono at a local legal clinic. She was 38, a white woman who had grown up in the same neighborhood as Anna, and hated powerful men who abused the system. "Let me get this straight," Jennifer said, reviewing the documents Alexander had brought her. "Your best friend kidnapped his son to buy time to loot his company, and now he's pretending to help you look for him." She laughed bitterly. "Typical. And I bet he already has a plan to come out looking like the hero in the end." Jennifer was right. Through contacts unknown to Robert, Alexander discovered that his best friend had devised a plan to find Leo in a dramatic staging within 48 hours. He would be the hero who saved his friend's son, earning eternal gratitude, and no one would suspect that he had orchestrated the whole thing. Meanwhile, Anna became the perfect spy. Robert and his accomplices spoke freely around her, as if she were a piece of furniture. The girl discovered names, meeting places, even bank account passwords mentioned in careless conversations. "They're meeting tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon at a high-end restaurant on the east side," Anna reported. "The socialite will receive $50,000 for his cooperation. And there's a third man, someone from the police department, who's making sure the kidnapping investigation doesn't get close to the truth." Alexander felt a cold, calculating anger take hold of him. Robert had not only betrayed a 20-year friendship, he had corrupted police officers and powerful socialites, turned the kidnapping of an innocent child into an elaborate hoax to cover up corporate theft. But Jennifer had the best news of all. "Alexander, do you know that Robert made a fatal mistake?" She showed him bank documents she had obtained through legal contacts. "He moved the money from your company using wire transfers that leave permanent traces. What's more, to speed up the process, he used his own personal account as a bridge." "What does that mean?" "It means we have irrefutable documentary proof that he stole from you. These aren't just suspicions or theories. It's evidence that no expensive lawyer could contest." That night, while Leo slept peacefully in a safe hospital room, Alexander looked out the window of the modest apartment where he was staying. Anna was teaching some younger kids how to play chess on a makeshift board. It was a scene that made him think about who really mattered in life. "Anna," he said when the girl climbed up, "tomorrow we're going to put our plan into action. But first, I need you to know that after this is all over, you're not going back to the streets ever." Anna looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Are you sure? I'm not like you guys. I don't know how to be rich." "You don't need to be rich, Anna. You need to be free. And after what we do tomorrow, Robert and all his powerful friends will learn that underestimating people like us was the biggest mistake of their lives." Because while Robert thought he had orchestrated the perfect crime, he hadn't accounted for 3 crucial variables: the determination of a desperate father, the intelligence of an invisible girl who heard everything, and the wrath of an entire community that was about to discover how rich men toyed with human lives for the sake of greed. The meeting at the East Side restaurant was set for Tuesday. But Robert and his accomplices didn't know that their every word would be recorded, every transaction documented, and every lie exposed on camera, turning their private betrayal into a devastating public humiliation. What none of them realized was that Alexander had learned something fundamental about revenge during those days in Queens. Sometimes the best strategy is not to attack from the top down with power and money, but from the bottom up with truth and justice, especially when you have allies your enemies can't even see. Tuesday arrived with a gray sky that seemed to anticipate the storm that was about to break over Robert Mitchell. At 2 sharp, he entered the high-end restaurant wearing his $3,000 suit, smiling with the confidence of someone who believes he has orchestrated the perfect crime. Anna was strategically positioned at a corner table, pretending to be just another busser. No one paid any attention to her, exactly as planned. The discreet microphone sewn into her uniform picked up every word with crystal clarity, transmitting everything to Jennifer, who was monitoring from a van parked 2 blocks away. "Gentlemen," Robert said, greeting his socialite acquaintance and Detective Davis, "I hope you appreciate expensive champagne because today we celebrate our complete victory." What Robert didn't know was that Alexander had spent the last 48 hours not only gathering evidence, but building a network of exposure that would turn this private meeting into a devastating public spectacle. 3 hidden cameras captured different angles of the table. 2 investigative journalists waited outside. And most importantly, the live feed was already being sent to a social media account with over 200,000 followers. $50,000 for you, sir," Robert said, sliding an envelope across the table to the socialite. "And $30,000 for Davis for keeping the investigation off us." He laughed arrogantly. "Alexander still thinks we're looking for his son. Pathetic." It was then that Anna calmly stood up and walked over to their table. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she said with a politeness that contrasted with her simple clothes. "My name is Anna, and I have something that belongs to you." Robert frowned, irritated. "Kid, I don't know who you are, but—" "I'm the one who found Leo," Anna interrupted, her voice gaining a firmness that made the 3 men freeze. "I'm the one who heard every word you've said over the last 4 days. And I'm the one broadcasting this conversation live to the entire world right now." Robert's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" Anna smiled, no longer the smile of a vulnerable girl, but of someone who had learned to play chess with masters. "Look around you, gentlemen. See that woman reading the newspaper? She's an investigative reporter. The man at the bar, a federal attorney. And those 3 people who walked in 5 minutes ago? FBI agents." The socialite tried to stand, but his leg shook so badly he almost fell. That's impossible. We were careful." "You were arrogant," said a familiar voice behind them. Alexander Sterling appeared, walking calmly toward the table, followed by Jennifer and 2 federal agents. "You underestimated a desperate father, a brilliant lawyer, and especially a girl you couldn't even see." Robert stood up abruptly, panic finally overcoming his composure. "Alexander, you don't understand. I can explain all of this. We've been friends for 20 years. Friends don't kidnap their friends' sons," Alexander replied with icy calm. "Friends don't steal their friends' companies, and friends certainly don't laugh about causing psychological trauma to a 9-year-old child." Jennifer opened a thick folder. "Robert Mitchell, you're formally charged with kidnapping, extortion, money laundering, corruption of public officials, and criminal conspiracy." She looked at the socialite and Detective Davis. "You too, gentlemen." But the real devastation was yet to come. Anna pulled out a tablet, showing the screen to the 3 men. "Want to see something interesting? Our live stream already has over 500,000 views. The comments are, well, you can imagine." The screen showed a flood of indignant messages. #JusticeForLeo was trending. Robert Mitchell's name was being associated with child abductor and psychopathic traitor in thousands of posts. His company had lost 40% of its market value in 2 hours. His wife had already posted a statement publicly divorcing him. The socialite was hyperventilating. My career, my family. I have children. Leo has a family too, Alexander said coldly. Did you think about that when you decided to participate in his trauma for $30,000? Davis tried to negotiate. I can hand over information on other cases. I can cooperate with the justice system. Too late to try to be a hero, Jennifer said. You had a 20-year career to do the right thing. You chose to do the wrong thing when you thought no one was watching. As the 3 men were handcuffed, Robert made one last desperate attempt. Alexander, please. We grew up together. You were best man at my wedding. This can't end like this. Alexander stared at him for a long moment. You're right, Robert. This can't end like this. He paused. This needs to end with complete justice. And then came the final blow. Jennifer showed him another document. Robert, do you remember the transfer you made using your personal account as a bridge? Well, it turns out that wasn't just evidence of theft. It was evidence of tax evasion. She smiled. The IRS wants to talk to you about the last 10 years of your tax returns. It looks like you owe the government about $2 million in unpaid taxes. At that moment, Robert Mitchell realized the full magnitude of his destruction. It wasn't just prison. It was total bankruptcy, public divorce, children who would change their last names, a reputation that would never recover, and decades in prison. As he was led away by the agents, Robert looked back one last time. Alexander was hugging Anna, and both were watching through the restaurant window as a small crowd had gathered outside, applauding the arrest being broadcast live. How? Robert muttered to himself. How did a street kid and a desperate man manage to destroy me so completely? The answer was simple, but Robert would never understand it. They hadn't underestimated anyone, while he had underestimated everyone. And in this game of power, those who underestimate always lose everything. In the center of that restaurant, where minutes earlier corruption and cruelty had been celebrated, a new reality was now taking shape, like a symphony that finally finds its harmony after years of dissonant notes, proving that true justice knows no social class, skin color, or limitations imposed by those who confuse power with impunity. 6 months later, Alexander Sterling was sitting in the office of Sterling 2, Associates, the new consulting firm he had founded after selling his stake in his previous company. Through the panoramic window, he looked out at Manhattan from a completely different perspective. It was no longer just about profit. It was about purpose. Anna knocked on the door holding a thick folder. Now 13, she wore the uniform of the prestigious St. Andrew's Preparatory School, but she had the same determination in her eyes. Mr. Alexander, the foundation reports are in. We got another 250 kids off the streets this quarter. The Anna and Leo Foundation, created with some of the money recovered from Robert's scheme, had become a national model for child protection programs. Leo, now 10 and in therapy, had insisted that she take Anna's name as well. She saved me first, he had said simply. Jennifer entered shortly after, now a partner in the firm and legal director of the foundation. I have news about our old friends, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Robert was sentenced to 25 years without parole. The socialite lost his re-election by 82% of the vote, the biggest defeat in the state's political history. And Davis, she laughed bitterly. He's serving drinks at a roadside bar in Nevada, but the consequences went far beyond prison. The live video of the arrest had gone viral with over 50 million views. #NeverUnderestimate became a social movement. 3 documentaries were produced about the case. More importantly, dozens of other cases of corruption came to light after ordinary people realized they had the power to confront injustice. Alexander looked at the framed photo on his desk. Him, Leo, and Anna on the day of the official adoption. Anna had chosen to keep her original last name, but she was now legally Leo's sister. "I want to honor where I came from," she had explained, "but I also want to belong somewhere." That afternoon, the three of them were driving home from Leo's school when he asked a question none of them expected. "Dad, have you forgiven Uncle Robert?" Alexander stopped driving for a moment. "Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, Leo. It means not letting someone's anger control your life. Robert chose to be cruel, but we chose to be better." Anna nodded thoughtfully. "On the streets, you learn that revenge is different from justice. Revenge is about hurting those who hurt you. Justice is about preventing them from hurting other people." Leo smiled. "And it's also about building something better, right?" That was exactly right. Alexander's company now employed exclusively people who had been underestimated by the system. Former homeless people, rehabilitated ex-convicts, skilled immigrants, people with disabilities. Productivity was 28% above the industry average, and turnover was nearly zero. Anna had become a speaker at schools, telling her story to thousands of young people. "You are not invisible," she would say. "You are underestimated, and that is your greatest advantage because when no one expects anything from you, anything you do surprises them." That night during dinner, Alexander received a call. It was the governor wanting to discuss a state partnership for the social reintegration program Anna had helped develop. When he hung up, he found his two children looking at him with pride. "You know what impresses me most about all this?" said Leo, playing with a compass necklace he now wore all the time. Uncle Robert thought he knew Dad, but he only knew who Dad pretended to be to make people like him. When he saw who Dad really was, it was too late. Anna laughed. "It's like chess. You let your opponent think he's winning while you position your pieces. By the time he realizes what's happening, the game is over." Meanwhile, in a federal penitentiary 400 miles away, Robert Mitchell sat in a small cell rereading for the 1,000th time the news about the success of the family he had tried to destroy. His wife had remarried. His children had changed their last names. His assets had been auctioned off to pay damages. What tormented him most was not that he had lost everything. It was knowing that Alexander and Anna had built something greater than he ever could. While he destroyed out of envy, they created out of love. Alexander closed his laptop that night, satisfied. The table next to him was covered with drawings Leo had made. The whole family together, including Jennifer, who had become more than just a partner. They were living proof that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. Anna walked into the room to say goodnight, as she had done every night for the past 6 months. "Mr. Alexander, can I ask you a question?" "Always." "Do you think all this would have happened if Uncle Robert hadn't been so greedy?" Alexander thought for a moment. "Maybe not, Anna. Sometimes bad people do us the greatest favor of our lives by showing us who we really are when we're tested." And that was exactly what it was. Robert had tried to break a family but ended up forging an even stronger one. He had tried to steal a child's future but ended up giving her a home. He had tried to destroy a man but ended up revealing a hero. The real victory wasn't seeing Robert in prison. It was seeing Leo laugh again, Anna graduate with honors, and hundreds of other families reunited through the foundation that was born out of pain and turned into hope. Because in the end, the best revenge is never destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so meaningful that their evil becomes irrelevant, proving that love and justice always win when brave people decide not to accept injustice as their inevitable fate. If this story of courage, family, and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true heroes are those who turn their greatest pains into purpose, and that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what really matters in life.